Welcome to the Lawyers Weekly Show for an in-depth look at the issues facing the legal profession.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Lawyers Weekly Show. My name's Jerome Doraisamy. I'm coming to you today from Camaragal Land in Sydney, and I'm very pleased to be joined in the studio by Mariam Azzo, who is a partner at Clayton Utz. Mariam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jerome. Great to be here.
Today we're going to be talking about impact investing, what's happening in this space down under, what are some of the challenges for lawyers practicing in this area, and what's so exciting moving forward. Mariam, there's a lot to talk about here, and I'm certainly excited to learn because I know next to nothing about impact investing. I know how to spell it, but that's probably about it. But before we get into all things impact investing, tell us a bit about yourself and the work that you do at Clayton Utz.
Sure. So I'm an M&A corporate lawyer. I've been doing that for around 15 years. Most of the experience I've gained at Clayton Utz, but also have worked in London and for an American law firm as well. I do a lot of work in the energy infrastructure space, and along the way I developed the firm's impact investing capability where commercial deals meet purpose. I was recently promoted 1st of July. I still can't believe it. I'm going to pinch myself. But that's a brief background.
Yeah. I like that idea of commercial meeting purpose. That's really cool. Now, for those who don't know about impact investing, and I include myself in that, would you mind giving us an overview for what it is and why it's significant?
Yeah, absolutely. So impact investing is the deployment of capital with the intent, and I say intent specifically because that's really important, intent to create positive social or environmental benefits that can be measured. And so the measurable aspect is also really, really important. It obviously differs from traditional investments in that it has that intent to create a positive environmental or social benefit, but it's also similar in that you have a financial return as well. So it could be a market competitive return or it could be concessional, depending on the impact investor's risk appetite and I guess how much money they want to make out of the transaction. Yeah.
And what's an example of your kind of bog standard impact investing project?
So bog standard doesn't exist in impact investing. It's a really wide spectrum. So like, for example, it could be social housing, and it doesn't just stop at we put X amount of people into this property. You have to measure the output, the outcome, and then the long-term benefits or the long-term impact, really, I should say. And that could be by 2030, homelessness has decreased by X amount. So that's one example. Another example could be really bespoke transactions like, setting up infrastructure in schools in Nigeria so that more girls, like young girls, attend school. And then you track the output, the outcome, and the impact would be more girls going to school and therefore more female representation in the workplace and so on, really. Yeah.
And how have you as an M&A lawyer ended up working in impact investing? What was the journey?
Oh, that's a big one. So, Jerome, I actually never thought I was going to be a corporate lawyer. I wanted to be a prosecutor. And I actually do a lot of pro bono work in the prevention of child sexual exploitation and abuse, and that's what I wanted to prosecute. But along the way, I came to realize that corporate work or corporates themselves or money, really, capital, could make change at a much larger scale. And so that's what drives me. I can't really live a life of just doing something without purpose. So that's my reason.
It sounds like impact investing ticks all the right boxes for you then.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
So what's the state of affairs for impact investing in Australia? Are we a world leader? Are we behind global progress at the moment? Where do we sit?
So we're not a world leader, but I think that's just generally what can be said for Australia. We're generally a few years behind. So in terms of the market, the impact investing market kind of overall, it's, just shy of $2 trillion US. And, in Australia, the growth is accelerating really quickly. So in 2020, you could probably place the market at around $20 billion in Australia, but now it's getting up into the hundreds of billions of dollars. So the trajectory is strong.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. We're chatting with Mariam Azzo, and we'll be back with more right after this. Mariam, what's driving this boom in impact investing? We were talking, a couple of $100 billion just now in the space of a few short years. How and why has there been such an explosion of activity in this space in Australia?
A few reasons. So superannuation funds in Australia are moving into private markets, and one of the areas that they're leaning heavily into is impact investing. So as an example, ART has deployed $2 billion into an impact fund, and that's being managed by a fund manager right now. So super is really leading the way, and it's exploding. But I think another reason is family offices and high net worth individuals who have, money, lots of money, let's put it that way. And a lot of these family offices are driven by impact, and some of them will dedicate 100% of their capital towards impact. What we've seen is that these family offices have moved away from just being like passive investors, and they're more involved now in driving impact deals and the impact outcomes, and so they are definitely a driving force. But you know what, Jerome, I'm gonna move away from market activity for a second and tell you why I think it is exploding like it is because of hopelessness. And what I mean by that is, I was just recently in New York actually. Mm-hmm. Have you been?
I haven't. No, okay. Love to.
So it's basically capitalism on steroids, yes. Multiplied a billion, whatever. Right? It's like capitalism central. And I've been there for the last 20 years. But this time when I went there, it was a lot of talk about socialism, communism, and I was really confused by that because it just doesn't sit with what you expect New York to be. And it turns, speaking to some people, it turns out that people are losing hope, especially the younger generation. Like back in the day, they would say, we respect the hustle, right? You hustle, you work really hard and you'll get somewhere. Now they're saying you hustle as hard as you want, but it's never going to make a difference. Now they're thinking it's just all, money's passing from one family to the next. And so hopelessness is very concerning. I mean, the largest fund managers in the world, including Larry Fink, who heads up BlackRock, has said that with hopelessness, markets will stagnate because who's going to be looking at doing a 20 to 30 year investment if they don't think that tomorrow is going to be better? So there's a lot to think about and a lot we can do, but I do think, I do think impact investing can help because it's deploying capital to solve the world's worst problems. I'm not saying it's like going to be, the answer and that's it and we don't need anything else, but I definitely think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm really pleased you raised the hopelessness point because, listening to you talk about some of the market-driven factors, I was curious to know about whether there were certain social or cultural or geopolitical economic forces at play, and it sounds as though there absolutely are. It's this combination of perhaps consumer demand, but also then late stage capitalism, generational trauma, angst, dismay at the world around them, and it seems as though it's created a perfect storm of sorts for a new age of investing across the markets. And in a way, it's a really fascinating thing to observe, but also creates a huge amount of opportunity, I would hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the wealth gap is just getting wider and wider. We don't want to reach a point where you've got the super wealthy and then you've got people who are struggling to house themselves or have a job with dignity. I mean, let's put it this way. I'm not saying that you shouldn't drive a Ferrari and you shouldn't live in a mansion and, you shouldn't, have a boat. People should do that. They make money, they should do that. But why can't we do that and also help the most vulnerable in society at the same time. Like what is this obsession with growth that we have in the world where you just want to keep on growing and growing, but to what end? Like, why do we need trillions of dollars sitting in Cayman Islands or some other tax haven, accruing interest when we're living, 80 years at that? Why couldn't we use that extra money to make a change and also make a return? Like that's the great thing about impact investing. It's not charity, because charity will never be a large portion of our economy. You're still getting a return, but you're also being able to track the impact. And that's where really good advisors come in, right? Because let's say, Jerome, we're billionaires right now and we've decided $2 billion of our wealth is going to go towards income. You're going to be pretty annoyed, aren't you, if you can't track that impact has actually occurred. So that's something that, really well-advised investors or fund managers can benefit from, having advice that really can track the measurements. Yeah.
So you said that Australia isn't a world leader in impact investing, at least not yet. But at the same time, there has been quite an explosion in the volume of activity in Australia in recent years. What do the coming years look like for impact investing in Australia? I mean, do you think that we could? You said it went from 2 billion to now a couple of 100 billion. Could we well see the figure reach 1 trillion in the coming years just in Australia alone? What predictions do you have?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic, and we went through the stats. I mean, that's been the trajectory for the last 5 years, and I would expect it to keep on going. Impact investors are very happy with their returns and the impact. So I can't see it. I can't see it slowing down.
So what does all of that mean for legal practitioners like yourself then? You mentioned a bit earlier, and forgive me if I'm paraphrasing here, but you've started up the impact investing team or practice at Clayton Utz. What does the future look like for a team like the one that you're leading?
Oh, it's so much opportunity. I mean, there's so much opportunity, not just for M&A practitioners, but for other practitioners in the space. Like, for example, funds need to be set up. Impact funds need to be set up. So there's a lot of opportunity for fund specialists. There's always going to be a need for tax advice. There's a lot of impact capital flowing. So financial services lawyers or finance lawyers themselves have lots of opportunity. So it's really, really, really cross-practice. And the practitioners who understand the frameworks that you anchor impact investment deals to, all the measurement tools that are globally recognized by impact investors, will go far.
Yeah. And Mariam, this might be an incredibly stupid question, but what's the nexus between M&A work and impact investing work? So if you're advising a company that is going through a merger, or if they're acquiring another company or being acquired by another company, how do you then advise that client on an impact investing project? Does it get tacked on to whatever M&A deal is happening? How does that work?
Yeah, so generally you would be advising your client or the fund manager on the assets to acquire for the impact fund, right? Now, a traditional M&A practitioner will, I'm sure, do an excellent job in making sure that, there's deal certainty and there's protective covenants and all that. So they'll protect your interests in that way. But impact investing specialists will understand and do all that. But what they'll also do is lock in the mission and the impact. You don't want impact drift, right? So after you close, you don't want to know that you've just spent all this money and there is no measurable impact. That would be the worst case scenario. Yeah, so you need to build that all into the documents.
So it sounds as though being able to advise on impact advisory projects allows an M&A lawyer like yourself to offer a more holistic service to your clients, and that perhaps we're going to reach a point soon enough where if you're not able to also assist with impact investing work, then perhaps you're doing your client a disservice.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, sure. And there's a lot of the traditional investments as well will eventually move into more sustainable, investments. And that's just where the world is moving. And some people will say to you, we're not doing that because we're environmentalists or we're socialists. We're doing that because we're capitalists. This is just good business at the end of the day to think about stakeholders. Together with your shareholders. Yeah.
Going back to my question about predictions, do you anticipate that impact investing work could well become its own practice group in a big firm like Clayton Utz, in the same way that M&A would be a standalone group?
Yeah. Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. Chambers and Partners already recognises impact investing as a standalone practice in the US, and has noted the large law firms in its rankings. So I think it's only a matter of time.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Mariam, I just have a few more questions for you, which we'll get to on the other side of this. So Mariam, it all sounds very exciting, and certainly there's opportunities abound for lawyers and their clients alike. What challenges do you foresee in this space for the rest of FY27 and as we look towards 2030? Are there certain hurdles that impact investing lawyers like yourself will have to overcome?
Yeah, and going back to mission drift, right? It's like the investors are getting a lot more sophisticated. They want a lot more certainty around the impact, and so making sure there is no mission drift in the contracts is very critical. The problem we have in Australia, and I'm actually writing about this, is that we don't have a dedicated corporate statutory vehicle for impact investment. So we've got, a traditional proprietary limited company or a public company that is profit driven. And then we've got charities, entities that you use for charitable purposes. But the charitable purposes can't make a profit. And the companies that are profit driven there's a real tension about can you put your stakeholders ahead of your shareholders? Now, in the US, they've got something called a public benefit corporation. I really think that we could benefit from having something similar in Australia. And so that's another hurdle that I think we'll need to overcome.
No, absolutely. And in the face of some of those hurdles, what do you think is going to constitute best practice for impact investing lawyers in the years to come?
Institutionalizing your clients. Because there's a lot of opportunity in different areas, like I mentioned. Don't wait for permission is what I'll say to lawyers. Like, nobody came up to me and said, hey, what do you think about impact investing and starting a practice? Like, I saw the trends and I pursued it. And luckily enough for me, my firm has stood behind me on that. So I'm very lucky and privileged with that. So I think they're probably the two key takeaways. And get to know your clients' businesses, get to know if there's any opportunity for impact within those businesses as we move forwards. Yeah.
One thing I really like about everything you're saying, Mariam, is the purpose-driven element to this kind of legal work. And I think that most, if not all, lawyers want to have that sense of purpose to the services that they are delivering to clients, courts, and the broader community. After all, that's why just about every lawyer goes into the profession. For those who are interested in this kind of legal work, how would you recommend they go about becoming an impact investment lawyer? Is there, noting, of course, that it's a relatively new area for lawyers to practice in, are you able to identify or outline a kind of pathway for them to get from A to B?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to go into impact investing, it's fundamental to understand how to execute transactions. And so, a corporate law or a law degree and then, practicing in corporate or an M&A practice is not going to do any prejudice to them. Actually, it'll set them up to have the skills. So that's probably the first recommendation is think about a corporate practice. But also note that it's not just defined to big corporate law. You can do impact investing within large charities. So Save the Children, for example, have got multiple impact funds. Lots of venture capital funds have impact-only purposes. So there is so much opportunity. But, having the skill set, they're a lawyer anyway, right? So having the corporate skill set will definitely help. Yeah.
And just finally, you're obviously quite passionate about your work in this space. What excites you about the future of impact investing in Australia and your role as a legal practitioner in hopefully driving forward that boom?
What excites me is seeing more people living lives with dignity, really. I think it's not, we're so privileged, right? We can sit here and have this conversation and then think about all these, ideas about how we can fix the world. But a lot of people don't have that privilege. They're thinking about how they're going to put food on their table for their children for dinner. And so they don't have the bandwidth to be able to be like, I'm going to think about, how to solve these crises. So I think if we can give people more opportunities to live lives with dignity and some more freedom in a way, that that will help in itself fix a lot of the world's problems.
I really like that. Mariam Azzo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you to the listener for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating and review on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts, as it'll help other lawyers discover and enjoy this show. And if you've got ideas for other episodes we can run, please get in touch at editor@lawyersweekly.com.au. You can also find us on social media. See you again next time.